Mark Levin just attacked Jack Posobiec for being a Catholic. At least, that's what Posobiec claims. Welcome back. Last week was AmFest at CPUSA, and this is my second video focusing on what went down there. My last video was about the USS Liberty question Nikki Rudd threw at Ben Shapiro. If you haven't seen that yet, go check it out by clicking somewhere up here. I walk through what really happened to the USS Liberty minute by minute based on the actual documents we have. I really believe it's worth the watch. Today, though, I'm focusing on something that genuinely pissed me off when I saw it, and the conversation online continues to piss me off. And it centers on Jack Posobiec and Mark Levin. With that, let's get into it. So, Jack Posobiec was slated to speak at AmFest, and he walked out holding up a rosary for everyone to see. At the time, this wasn't a controversy, and it shouldn't have been. Sure, there were some Protestants who don't like Catholicism who were boasting about how Charlie Kirk, founder of TPUSA, wasn't Catholic, so Jack shouldn't be using Catholic imagery, but overall, nobody really cared. Jack's a Catholic showing his faith at an event inherently linked to faith. Look, I'm a Catholic as well, so of course it didn't bother me. Then an image from that very same day came out of him posing for a picture with Myron Gaines, a Sudanese streamer who was known for hating Jews. Don't believe me? Just look at this picture. He's wearing a sweatshirt with a cookie monster on it that says, "Let him cook." Now, for those of you who aren't as online as I am, you might not immediately get that, but it's a reference to the Holocaust. One of the Holocaust deniers' favorite arguments is to rhetorically ask how long it would take to bake 6 million cookies, as if Jews were just being cooked like cookies in ovens. So Myron Gaines' sweatshirt is an obvious allusion to that. And it doesn't stop there with Gaines. Here's a post where he says he likes Hitler. Here's one from Christmas Day saying Hitler was spot on about the Jews. And here's him doing the Nazi salute. Now, Myron was apparently kicked out of AmFest because of that sweatshirt. And that matters because some people will sit there and say, oh, Jack, just pose for a photo. It's not on him to check what the people he's with are wearing. And quite honestly, initially that was my take too. I wasn't going to pile on Jack for taking a photo with someone who asked. Now, I didn't know the situation. Then a video of the interaction came out, and in it you can hear Jack tell Myron and his crew, "I'm sorry that happened, seriously," which was obviously referencing them being kicked out.
I see these things, I'm like, goodness gracious, it's the euphemistic expressions that we call for on a consistent basis. The smoke and mirrors, we need to be able to get around that and see the truth of what it is, because as the Bible says, the truth shall set us free.
All right, glad you're here. I'm glad you're taking care of. Thank you both.
Sorry that happened.
You mean it?
After that clip, the Twitter world went wild. One of the reactions came from the account George Wept, who called out Posobiec for being a performative grifter. And look, the Wept tweet did focus solely on Posobiec bringing out the rosary. I said before that I didn't have an issue with that, but if I'm being 100% honest, it felt performative to me. I absolutely hate performative politics, and even more so performative displays of faith. If it's genuine, great. If it's meant to spread your faith, great. When it's meant simply to signal how faithful you are, that's when I have a problem. And I don't claim to know what Posobiec's intention was by doing that, so I won't bash him for bringing out the rosary. What I will do is say that when you are, on that very same day, being friendly with known Nazi sympathizers, then I have an issue, and I lean toward this being a performative stunt. And I'm not the only one who thought that. Mark Levin responded to this tweet and called Jack a crackpot. Now, this really set off the firestorm because people thought that Mark was calling Jack a crackpot simply for holding up a rosary. Mark corrected that, saying that he has no problems with Catholics or the rosary, even offered to send Jack a rosary. What bothered Mark was Jack signaling his faith on stage while being with Nazi sympathizers off stage. And to show that Jack didn't just accidentally take a picture with Myron, Jack never issued a statement or anything of the like explaining that it was a mistake. What did Jack do instead? He leaned into this lie that he was being attacked for his faith. He has been on a heater posting about the rosary, claiming that the reaction to him holding the rosary has proven the power of the rosary. Now I'll say here what I replied to him. The rosary is great, but using it as a performance stunt the same day you pose with Nazi sympathizers, not so great. That was from yesterday. Before then, he had been posting images every day saying, "Pray the rosary every day." Again, great, I agree. I don't do it every day, I wish I did, but I do it multiple times in a week when I go to adoration. I also pray the Chaplet of Divine Mercy and the Rosary of the Holy Wounds. That's neither here nor there. What is here and there, though, is Jack posting random pictures of rosaries and other religious symbols in the aftermath of this controversy. The obvious idea was to make it seem like he's posting pictures of his own rosaries, but a quick reverse image search shows that he just pulled these images off of the internet. As I said, I hate performative religion, and passing off images of religious items that are meant to aid in prayer as yours in order to show how committed you are to the faith, that's performative. That's not genuine. That's not how we are called to be. Matthew, chapter 6, verse 1. Be careful that you don't practice your religion in front of people to draw their attention. If you do, you have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Later in that same verse, it says, when you pray, don't be like the hypocrites. They love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners so that people will see them. I assure you, that's the only reward they'll get. But when you pray, go to your room, shut the door, and pray to your Father who is present in that secret place. Now, am I saying that Jack doesn't pray in private? No. Am I condemning all public displays of faith? Of course not. I encourage public displays of faith. I think it's wonderful and want more public displays of genuine faith. Genuine, not performative, but real, from the heart, genuine faith. And again, I don't know what is in Jack's heart. But from the outside looking in, it all seems performative, as he has to me since I first heard of him a few years back. He was even on Michael Knowles' show a few weeks ago, and even then I thought that he sounded like he was putting on a show. And what he's doing with his faith, it seems like he wants it to be the Jack Posobiec show. And I say that partly because of his history. Mark Levin wasn't calling him a crackpot just because of one photo. Jack has a long history of being linked to Nazi sympathizers, himself using Nazi sympathizing language, and essentially at times being an asset of foreign governments against the United States. I already showed you the photo and video of him with Myron Gaines. We don't need to go over that again. But did you know that he has a history of posting 1488? What is 1488? It's a number sequence used among white supremacist Nazi sympathizers. It's somewhat like 8647, the number that people used to mean assassinate Trump. You know, the one that James Comey posted on his Instagram while claiming total ignorance. Well, that means that if you've never seen it before, you don't know what the numbers mean. But if you know, you know. It's a signal to others in the same sphere as you. Jack has a history of using 1488. 14 refers to a white supremacist slogan that is 14 words long. 88 represents the words Hail Hitler. 8 is an H, as H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. Then in 2018, Jack went to Poland to march with the openly neo-fascist group Oboz Narodowo Radykalny, more simply known as the ONR party in Poland. This party also goes by the name the National Radical Camp, and they borrowed this name from a political party in the 1930s that was known as an anti-Semitic organization. The original group held marches in southern Poland celebrating anti-Jewish riots that took place in 1936. At this event, they sold the Norman Finkelstein book, The Holocaust Industry, which downplays the suffering of the Holocaust victims. This event Posobiec marched at included groups from all over the world, including a group of UK skinheads with KKK t-shirts and the known Italian fascist group Forza Nuova. On top of that, remember that whole thing about Russia influencing the 2016 elections? The media turned that into Russia elected Trump, which was complete nonsense, but a congressional report did find that Russia attempted to interfere by posting fake information online. And Russia did so again in 2020 by creating websites with fake information about the candidates. As in 2016, the impact of the Russian interference efforts in 2020 were negligible, but guess who Russia got to help spread their lies? Jack Posobiec. He posted multiple links to a website called SouthFront, which was later sanctioned by the US Treasury for engaging in election interference and being controlled by the Russian FSB. Now, am I saying that Jack knew that he was spreading Russian lies? No, I can't say that. What I can say is that Jack is a proven idiot who got duped by a foreign government. That much is certain. And outside of that, would you believe that he attempted to create a false flag brawl at a Trump protest? He went to a Trump protest and tried to start an assassinate Trump chant with the hopes that he could film the people who joined in and then post it online. He even held up a sign, and I'm not sure if YouTube will punish me for saying this out loud, so I'll just show you the photo with the word not fully shown. Now, does a guy who tries to goad others into chanting for Trump's assassination, who holds up a sign saying that the worst possible thing should happen to Melania, does he sound like a good guy to you? Or is it all just performative? Performative politics, performative faith. That is who Jack Posobiec is. It's time that you catch on to that. And I won't spend time on the rest, but there's more. He, for some reason, lost his security clearance when he was a Navy intelligence officer. He has lied about his work history, saying that he formerly worked at CBS. He amplified false Russian leaks about Emmanuel Macron during the French elections. The dude is a bona fide scrub of a man, a grifter of the highest order. He says and does what he can to get attention, to get likes, to get subscribers, to get some money. His history proves it, and I have no reason to believe that he has changed now. He is a performer. It's what he does. Online, on stage, everywhere he goes. And it does real damage. Yes, damage to the political party, but more importantly in my mind is the damage to the reputation of the Catholic faith. Because right now, a lot of young men are joining the Catholic faith, and that is absolutely fantastic. Rational adults look around, see that people like Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, and Jack Posobiec flaunt their faith the way they do, and then go and be friendly with people who openly love Hitler. It turns good, kind-hearted people away from the Catholic faith. We've all heard them say that Catholics are anti-Bible, that we worship Mary, that we worship the Pope. None of that is true. Now Protestants have another attack against us, that the Catholics are grifters who hide behind their faith while attacking anyone who isn't a white Christian man. It's not what Catholicism is. It's not who Catholics are. So I call on Jack Posobiec and the others like him to stop performing their Catholic faith. The Catholic faith is not your ticket to notoriety and fame. It should be your ticket to heaven. I'll leave you with this rough quote from Pope Paul VI in his 1965 Declaration Nostra Aetate. The Church, therefore, exhorts her sons to preserve and promote the good things, spiritual and moral, as well as the socio-cultural values found among men of other faiths. We are called to preserve and promote the good things, spiritual and moral. Is flaunting your faith for show spiritual and moral? Is hanging out with Hitler-loving Nazi sympathizers spiritual and moral? Is reframing every criticism of you to an attack on your faith spiritual and moral? My goal when I started this page was to call out the lies of the left, to stand for truth, to stand for the conservative movement. What I never expected was to so quickly be having to defend the conservative movement from grifters and liars within our own party. I want to defend, to stand up for, and be a beacon of what is spiritual and moral. I know I have a small platform, but to whatever tens of people view this, I hope I've done in this video what I set out to do, defend the truth, which, by extension, necessarily means I'm defending the spiritual and moral, because the spiritual and moral comes from God, and God is truth. Thank you for sticking around and watching. Hit like and subscribe for me. I'd greatly appreciate that, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Does Jack Posobiec come off as performative to you? Does his long history of being with Nazi sympathizers, posting thinly veiled white supremacist language, and marching with fascist groups bother you? To me, the biggest question I have is how he ever got on TPUSA's payroll, which I didn't even mention in the video. It raises some serious questions about what has been going on over there. But anyways, thanks for watching. If I had to guess, I'd say this is my last video of 2025, so I hope it was a good one. I'll be seeing you next year. Thank you.